This is a fascinating story. Have you ever seen this before? This is the Christian flag. It's a symbol. Christians, conservative Christians, Christian nationalists, they like flying this thing wherever they can. And recently, this became a big deal in Hartford, Connecticut, because just before Easter, they were like, why don't someone requested that they put up a Christian flag outside City Hall? And the city council members are like, that sounds great. And a couple city council members are like, wait. You know, there are laws against doing this, right? Like, we can't just put up a Christian flag outside City Hall. And this is what they were debating before Easter. And I will give you an update on this, but let me tell you what happened. Like, when they were discussing this, this was a resolution that was offered a couple of weeks ago in Hartford. And you can see it's sponsored by members of the city council. And they say, I'm going to remove myself here if I can. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Court of Common Council of the City of Hartford authorizes the raising of the Christian flag at City Hall on April 17th, which is a week ago, a week as I'm making this video, but it was a couple days before Easter Sunday. So the plan was they would raise this flag outside City Hall for like a long weekend and then take it down. And they said in the whereas clause right above my head here, why are we doing this? To recognize the contributions of the Christian community and the many organizations that support our residents, which is all bullshit. No one cares about that. They just wanted to put up this Christian flag. Now, as with any resolution, there was some discussion about it before they proceeded to vote on this issue. And any council members who wanted to speak up could do it. And this is where it got interesting. One of the people who spoke out against this resolution was a council member named Joshua Michtum. And he spoke and he basically argued, like, he's a lawyer and he's Jewish. And he was actually really tactful in how he tried to tell his colleagues this is a really bad idea. He said, it is disrespectful for those of us on city council to put up this flag because we, the elected government, we are a far less accomplished and respectable group than the Christian groups themselves. So, like, it is, how dare we think we can honor Christians? I don't know if that was reverse psychology on his part, but like, wow, that's an impressive argument right there. He also pointed out, and this is where my head went first, that if you allow a Christian flag to go up outside City Hall, what's going to happen when Satanists or atheists or any other group say, well, we have a flag too, and we want to put it up outside City Hall? Because he said, what are we going to do? If we reject these other requests in the future, we could be sued over that. So those were all very good points that he raised. He also said, like, all of us on this council in general, we may be okay with the Christian flag going up and what that means, but, quote, when it's the Church of Satan, maybe we won't feel so good about it. So, like, at least one member of the city council gets the problem. There was another member of city council, too. His name is John Gale. He's also a lawyer, and I want to play for you the clip of what he said, because let me tell you where this dude is coming from. He said, putting up a Christian flag violates the law. How does he know it violates the law? Because he wrote the law. He wrote the ordinance that explains why you cannot fly a religious flag outside City Hall. And this requires a little bit of background, because a few years ago in Boston, the Boston City Hall had like 3 flagpoles. And they have like the American flag and a flag for the state of Massachusetts, and then a flag that you could sign up paperwork for to get your flag put up there. And a few years ago, someone requested that they put the Christian flag on the 3rd flagpole. And the city of Boston basically said, I don't think we're allowed to do that because that would be like an endorsement of religion. And so we're going to say no. And then all the right-wing legal groups are like, jackpot, baby. So they sued, and they eventually got their case all the way up to the Supreme Court. And you know how this is going to end. The Supreme Court, I think this is in 2022, they said, if Boston has a flagpole that is an open forum, anyone can apply to put up a flag there, you cannot say no to a religious group just because they want to be included in the mix. So you guys had an open forum. So you had to say yes to this request. And that's what ended up happening in Boston. So what John Gale, this dude in Hartford, who is against the Christian flag going up, what he says is, after that Supreme Court decision came down, we as a city had to figure out, well, what are we going to do? Because we do have a flagpole and we put stuff up too. And he wrote an ordinance for the city. And it said a couple things I want to highlight. The first, I'm going to show it to you right here. He wrote an ordinance and it said two things that were really interesting. The first is up here at the top. The city may use its flagpoles to express official city-endorsed messages from the city council that may be appropriately accompanied by ceremonial flag raising. What he wrote there is that when we put something up on our flagpole, it is the city talking. It is not an open forum for anybody. It is what we as a city are endorsing. Which means, what if I want to put up a flag that says vote for the Democrat? You can't do that because the city isn't allowed to tell you that sort of thing. Interesting. There's also one other thing he added. I'll remove myself, but look at letter G. Flagpoles are not a forum for free expression. The city's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. This dude literally wrote in there, you know the thing that happened in Boston? We are not that. You cannot pretend we are an open forum for your flag ideas. We're not. So it's not an open forum. We get to decide what goes up on the flagpole. That's part one. And part two is that whatever we do put up on the flagpole, you can all be assured that is a message coming from the city. So there's your double whammy for why you can't put religious flags up at City Hall. So John Gale here, he's like, we cannot do this. I helped write the ordinance that says why we can't do this. But John Gale knows he is speaking to a city council that is full of morons. So let me play you the clip of this dude trying to talk sense into his colleagues, knowing full well they do not get this.
You probably have all taken a look, at least I hope you have taken a look, at Ordinance 2-13. That's an ordinance of the city of Hartford. That is law. We, council, are not authorized to violate our own ordinances, and if we do, any member of the public could sue the city for us violating it. I know members who've supported this have taken great comfort in a Supreme Court case that came out of Boston. In that case, let's be very clear, the issue was that Boston had allowed everyone to use their flag. They made no distinctions. Anybody came along, you could use the flag. They only stopped when somebody wanted to raise a Christian flag. And that's what got Boston into trouble, because at that point, their flagpole had become a free speech flagpole, like designating a corner of your city where anybody can speak about anything. That means they can speak about religion, they can speak about anything. And that is what that Supreme Court case said. It was very clear, because Boston had created a flagpole that was free speech. You couldn't deny the free speech rights to the people who wanted to raise the Christian flag. That is very different from Hartford. Our ordinance specifically says in section G, flagpoles, not a forum for free expression. The city's flag, I'm quoting here, the city's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. That takes us completely out of the Boston case. That's why we put it in there. I was part of the drafting of this ordinance. That is exactly why that phrase is in there, so that we didn't get into the same trouble that Boston got into. So where are you? Now that you say your flagpole is not a public forum, now it becomes government speech. And note that the ordinance says in subsection E, little 2I, city may use its flagpoles to express official city-endorsed messages. What you are doing tonight is you are passing an official city-endorsed message. The city of Hartford supports the Christian flag. That's unconstitutional, ladies and gentlemen. It's written in the First Amendment. the Establishment Clause, and there's countless Supreme Court cases that will say exactly that. Cases where all of a sudden the community wanted to put up the 10 Commandments. And the Supreme Court said, no, you had no secular purpose in putting up those 10 Commandments. It was simply put up to promote religion. And that's what's happening here. We are not in a situation like some communities where they had a 50-year history of doing certain things. This is the second year we've passed this. And Councilman Victim and I opposed it last year. We'll oppose it next year if you bring it out again. This is contrary to our ordinance. It's contrary to law.
So that is a long clip, but I wanted you to hear all of that because here's a dude talking so much sense and nobody is paying attention to what he is saying. Because after he spoke, they eventually voted on whether that Christian flag should go up, and the vote was 7-2 for the flag to go up. And the two voices of reason were the only people who opposed it. And then on Easter, or just before Easter, here's Hartford City Council, and there it is. There's the Christian flag at the very top right there. It was up there for like 4 or 5 days until they took it down, something like that. Here's the thing. He mentioned this in the clip, but John Gale mentioned this. This is the second year they've done this. It was illegal last year too, but for whatever reason, it didn't get a lot of attention. And now they're like playing with fire because now they're doing it again, thinking we got away with it in year one. Why don't we just do it again in year two? And that city council members like, don't do it. This is wrong. We are going to get sued over this. And here's the question that I want you to think about. Will anybody sue over this? No doubt there are people in Hartford who have a problem with what just happened, who might have legal standing to bring this case. However, here's the other thing to consider. Because I asked some church-state separation groups if they were going to do anything about this. I did not hear anything in the affirmative. And the reason I think they're hesitant to sue over this is because they're really afraid that even if they win, because they should win, right-wing legal groups will get this case all the way back up to the Supreme Court. And all of a sudden, every city council everywhere will be allowed to put up Christian flags if they want to. And that would be a huge disaster. So what would you do if you're a lawyer in this case for the church-state separation side? Do you say, you know what they're doing in Hartford is wrong, but it's a lot better to just let this city screw up and do the thing they're doing rather than try to fix it and make the whole problem worse? And I think that's the strategic calculation that they are making here, that we're just going to let this one slide because we don't want to see this taken into the courtroom. Well, maybe we'll send a letter, but if they don't fix it, there's not much we can do about it. And I hate that that might actually be the sensible thing to do to avoid a bigger catastrophe down the line. But I wanted to let you know that happened. If you live in the city of Hartford, keep that in mind when you're thinking about, who to vote for in the next city council election. These people are not doing what's in the best interest of the community. At least, 7 of them. All right, I'm going to pause there for now. What do we got? This is why lawyers get so frustrated with their clients. They work so hard to get the contract right, and then the client immediately screws the whole thing up. Yeah, here's the city council member saying, I wrote this bill to avoid a legal problem, and here you are saying, who cares what you wrote? We're going to put up the flag anyway. To hell with words we don't understand, like Constitution. It's got to be frustrating if you're that guy, but also I am so glad a guy like that is on their city council. Why do they have to put it up on public property? Put it up across the street. I wouldn't care. That's precisely why they want it up on public property, because these Christians are like animals that want to pee over their property. They want to show domination. They want to show this is mine. You can't have it. So putting up a Christian flag outside City Hall or at the White House or whatever it is, it's a sign that shows, we can do this and you can't, because you're inferior to us. That's why they want to do it in public places. They're not interested in putting up a Christian flag at their church. They don't care about that. They want to do it to make you realize you are inferior to them. Can that city council member sue them himself? That's a good question. I am not sure legally if that's allowed or if he's interested or wants to. I don't know. I don't know. I also don't know if these city council members would be interested in doing that, because I'm sure, at any city council, your colleagues are always idiots and they're always voting for things that are not good for the city. But if you are a city council member, I think, strategically, it's better to get yourself on the record saying, I oppose this. We are going to get sued over this. I want the public to know I don't think this is a good idea, and then sit back and let the chips fall where they may. Because if someone else sues, you can go back to the public and say, I told you this was going to happen, so vote for me and get those idiots out of here, rather than being the person that could theoretically sue your own city, and then the city gets punished, even if you're a winner. It's probably not a good look. So we're stuck tolerating the slow creep of Christian nationalism in hopes that it'll stave off a more dramatic court-ordered Christian nationalism. Yeah, that pretty much nails it. Though I would specify, we're stuck tolerating the slow creep of Christian nationalism in individual places, in certain cities, at certain school boards. Then you have to calculate whether it's worth filing lawsuits over this stuff, because of what the court makeup is right now and where the law is right now, where, laws don't matter if you're a Republican. You can get pardoned if you break the law if you're a Republican. So yeah, unfortunately, you're nailing it, and that's the strategic calculation. Do we atheists have a flag? Unofficially, no. Various organizations, American Atheist has a symbol they use. Different atheist groups might have their logos and stuff like that. But no, there's no universal sign for atheists. We did not vote on it. If you even tried to do that, people would rebel against it. But, just put my face on it and raise it, and that's the new flag. And I declare that because I'm king.